What's up, guys? You should have 3 sheets of paper. Of course, you're not going to write. This is just to help you with reducing your slope. And you have a 4-problem assignment. And on the first problem, what I'm going to do is show you what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to write an equation for the line. Now, we've written equations of lines that we see on a graph before. So we all know that an equation, we want the y by itself. One x over here with a multiplying number in the front plus another number. And this is called the m, and this is called the b. Now remember, m means slope, and b means the y-intercept, okay? Okay, first let's plot these points and make a line out of it. So this is x, this is y, this is x, this is y. So plot that point. So this is your x, this is your y. So I go -2 on x, -1, -2, and then -2 on y, -1, -2, and there's your first point. Okay, and then 4, -8. So I go +4 on the x. So +1, +2, +3, +4. And I go to -8 on the y. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. So you know that the line has those 2 points, okay? So take the ruler, and just make the line out of it. Okay, so we have to find M, and we have to find B, okay? Remember what those mean. First, find B. Where does this cross the y-axis line at, okay? Right here, okay? So right there, it crosses the y-axis. So mark that point, and that's -1, -2, -3, -4. So your B is -4. Okay, now use your slope. Pick any 2 points. It doesn't matter, but pick one to the left. Let's pick this one right here, or this one, okay? Because remember, I'm always having you pick that one. Remember, a slope is a fraction, okay? So start at that point. You would have to go down first. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So you would go down 4. So -4 because you went down. And then you would have to go across to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So we have -4 over 4. Okay, those are the same numbers, so we don't need the chart. We're just going to divide them both by 4. And -4 divided by 4 is -1. 4 divided by 4 is also 1, okay? So I go here, and it'd be -1 over 1, but when we have 1 on the bottom, we get rid of it, okay? So the answer is y equals -1 times x plus -4. Now, the question is, how do you do that without a graph? Okay, because we don't want to have to graph every single time. Okay, we're done with the graph paper. You can throw that in the garbage. Okay, so again, you want to get the equation from the line, but you're not going to graph the line. So you're like, well, how am I going to write the equation if I don't see the graph? Well, I'm about to show you. Okay, so y equals something x plus something else. Okay, this is the M, this is the B. Now, when you don't have the graph, remember what these mean. M is the slope, and B is the y-intercept. So when you don't have the graph, you're actually going to figure out the slope first. And the way to figure out the slope is to use y minus y, x minus x. So come down here, set up your minuses just like that. And xy, xy. Okay? So we'll pick that one first. So we'll put a 6 on top and a 4 on the bottom. Go over here, you're going to put a 7 on top and a 2 on bottom. So you can make those both plus negative. So I take 6 plus -7. That's -1. Then I take 4 plus -2. That's 2. Now, this is, if it's a story problem, you would divide -1 by 2, but if it's not a story problem, you want to use your multiplication table to reduce the fraction. So 1 and 2 are just in one row, so if I divide them both by 1, okay, it stays the same. It'd be -1 over 2, okay? You need to keep the 1 if it's on top. If it's on bottom, you can get rid of it, but you need that -1/2. Okay, now here's how you find your y-intercept. You're going to find it the same way you did last week. You write the equation y equals m times x plus b, okay? And your m is the -1/2. It's from up here, okay? So put that -1/2 above your m, okay? And for y and x, you either pick this or this. It doesn't matter which one, okay? For consistency, I'm going to pick the second one. I'm going to put 6 where the y's at. And after the -1/2, I got my x, so I'm going to times that by 4, okay? So, and your b stays the same because the b is what you're trying to figure out. So you line up your equals and you got 6 by itself. Now on the other side, I take -1/2, -1 ABC2 times 4. And I put -2. Don't forget the plus b, because the b is what you're trying to figure out. So the wall goes up, 1 dot circle, get that -2 out of there. So you would plus 2. And 6 plus 2 is 8, and we got 1 dot b, okay? Now divide by 1, and you have found your b. 8 equals b. So 8, and that's the equation. And you would have gotten 8 if you would have done this for y and this for x too. It doesn't matter which one, but there's your equation. Okay, I'm going to do 6 more examples in this, okay? So, equation has a y, it has an x, it has a number in front of it. That's called your slope. That's your m plus your b. You have to find m and b. Remember what these represent. M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. So if I don't see the graph, I'm going to want to do my slope first, okay? So y minus y, x minus x is how we figure out the slope. So we got minus minus, so -11 to the top, -8 on the bottom, and -8 on the top, -4 on the bottom. So these first negative minuses, we go plus negative on each one. So -11, -8. Now, over here, when we have these right together, it goes plus plus, okay? And then I'm there. I take -11 plus 8, I got -3. Then I take -8 plus 4, and I got -4. Okay, now 3 and 4, okay? 3 and 4 are both in the first row, okay? And also one thing, when you have a negative over a negative, those cancel out. They are now both positives. Okay, so 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are both in the first row. So divide by 1, and it would stay 3/4. Okay, you wouldn't cross anything out. You don't have a 1 on the bottom. And now to find your b, you use y equals m times x plus b. Okay, so the m I already have. The m I just figured out was 3/4. Okay. Then for y and x, I can use this. I'll go -11 above y. And I put a times, and then a -8 for the x. So line up your equals, and you have -11. And on the other side, we got to take 3 ABC4 times -8, and I got -6 plus b. Now the wall can go up, the 1 can go in front, dot and circle. You have that -6, so you're going to have to add it. So we got 1 dot b over here, and then -11 plus 6 is going to be -5. So divide by your 1 and -5, okay? So -5 is your B. And there's your equation. That's the answer I want to see. I don't want you just stopping here. I need to see this up here because that's the answer. That's the equation. Okay, next up, y. We need an x. In front of it is my slope. And then I add another number, which is my y-intercept, my b. So to find that slope, remember what these letters mean, okay? Very important you remember that. Okay, so the slope, y minus y, x minus x. Okay, let's start with our second, 4 to the bottom, 4 to the top, 6 to the bottom. Then 3 to the bottom, 1 to the top. Now these don't have minuses, these do. They would both become plus negatives, okay? So 4 plus -1 is 3. 6 plus -3 is 3, okay? And then since the numbers match, we divide by 3. Don't forget that. So it's going to be 1 over 1. That's your slope. But we can get rid of the 1 if it's on the bottom. And I can just put a 1 then where my m's at. You can only cross out a number if it's a 1 and it's on the bottom. Okay, so your m is 1. Okay, you just figured that out. That comes from here. And then 4 is going to substitute for the y, and then 6 substitutes for the x. And now I can solve for my b. 4, 1 times 6 is 6, plus b. 1, dot circle. So your 6 is positive, so you're going to minus it. And then 4 minus 6 is -2. Then you can divide by your 1, and -2 is equal to b. Okay, so there's your equation. Y equals 1 times x plus -2, or x plus -2. Okay, moving right along. So MB. So remember, M is the slope, B is the y-intercept. Okay, so xy, -1 to the top, 2 to the bottom. 5 to the top, -2 to the bottom. Okay? So that would be a plus -1. This would be a plus -5. With nothing there, but here that would have to be plus. Okay? So on top I go -1 plus -5. That's -6. And on bottom, 2 plus 2 is 4. Now 6 and 4 is what we're looking for, okay? There's a 4 and a 6. That's the furthest row I have it, so I would reduce it by 2. Divide by the factor of 2. -6 divided by 2 is -3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. You can't cross anything out, and you have to keep the negative this time because there's not a negative on the bottom to cross it out with. So -3 over 2. Okay, y equals m times x plus b. M, you got -3 over 2, okay? And then for my y and x, I can substitute -1 for y, and then I'm going to substitute the 2 for the x. So line up your equals, you're going to have -1, and on the other side you need to multiply -3 over 2, so ABC right here, times 2. So I got -3 plus b. Now the wall can go up, put a 1 coefficient, so 3 and 3, so you would plus 3, and we have 1 dot b here, and -1 plus 3 is 2. Now you divide by 1, so 2, and then b, so that is 2. Okay, next problem. Remember, we need an equals. Remember, that's how you set it up, okay? Now you got to find your M and your B. M is the slope, B is the y-intercept, okay? So the slope is y minus y, x minus x. Okay, so xy, xy. So start there, -7, -4. And then 4 and 9. Okay, these are plus negative on the 7 and the 4, plus negative on the 9 and the 4. And now I'm ready to go. -7 plus -9 is -16. -4 plus -4 is -8. Okay, the double negatives need to be crossed out. Now we don't need no negatives, okay? Now, this is kind of a tricky one, knowing what to divide by, because there's quite a few rows that have 16 and 8. Like the first row has 16 and 8. So does the second row, so keep looking down. Third row doesn't. 4 has a 16 and an 8. Ooh, keep looking, okay? Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. The 8 has an 8 and a 16. And then I don't see any more 8s, so we actually divide by 8, because that's the greatest common factor you can divide those by. So 16 divided by 8 is 2, and 8 divided by 8 is 1. Now what can you do when there's a 1 on the bottom? You can get rid of that, and now your 2 can just be your m, the fraction we don't need. So b, y equals m times x plus b. Okay, so your m is 2, and then your y and x, you come over here. You can also pick that one too. We'll just continue to use this one. So -7 replaces the y, and -4 replaces the x. Okay, so on this side I take 2 times -4. It's -8 plus b. Wall goes up, 1 dot circle. You got a -8, so we got a +8 and +8. -7 plus 8 is going to be 1. Then divide by 1, divide by 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. That's b. Y equals 2x plus 1. Okay, let's keep on going. So m and b, okay? So m is our slope, b is our y-intercept, okay? So m, y minus y, x minus x. That's how we find the slope when we don't have the graph to help us, okay? Okay, so xy, xy. So 4 on top, -5 on the bottom. Then -2 to the top, 1 to the bottom. Okay, 4, no, this would be plus, plus negative, and plus negative. So 4 plus 2 is 6, and then -5 plus -1 is going to be -6. Now, here's another thing you have not seen yet, okay? You can't get rid of the negative because there's not a negative on top. But what I want you to do with a negative, if you have a negative on the bottom and you can't get rid of it, you are going to move it to the top, okay? Okay, just get in the habit of that. If you see one negative, you can't get rid of it, but if it's on bottom, you're allowed to move it to the top. And I don't need my chart because the numbers are identical, so I would divide by 6. And that's -1 over 1. And we get rid of the 1 on the bottom, and we just have -1. Okay? Okay, I'll get rid of these. So the m here is -1. And then 4 is going to replace our y. And then the -5 is going to replace our x. So line up your equals. You have just 4 on that side. Then -1 times -5 is 5 plus b. Okay, the wall goes up, 1 dot circle. You got a 5, so you're going to have to minus that. So 4 minus 5 is -1. You got 1 dot b. Now divide by 1. And -1 divided by 1 is -1. So there's your equation. Y equals -1x plus -1. Okay, last problem. Equation, y by itself, you need the x. X will need a coefficient, which is our slope, m, plus another number, which is our b. m, b. m's the slope, b is the y-intercept. So the slope, y minus y, x minus x. Okay, xy, xy. So -4 to the top, -2 on the bottom, and then 8 to the top, and 2 to the bottom. So plus -4 plus -8 plus -2 plus -2. -4 plus -8 is -12. Then I take -2 plus -2, that's -4. Now what do we say we do if we have a negative and over a negative? We're going to cross those out, and then when I reduce, I look at 12 and 4. Okay, so there's a 4, there's a 12, and that's the lowest row, so I would take the 4. That's 3 over 1. Now when you have 1 on the bottom, you can get rid of it, so your slope is just 3. Okay, so the m we have is 3. Y and the x, -4 would substitute for the y, and then -2 would substitute for the x. -4, 3 times -2 is -6 plus b. Okay, put the 1 in front, dot circle, plus, plus. -4 plus 6 is 2, and then 1 dot b. Divide by 1, divide by 1, you still have 2, okay? Okay, and that is how you write an equation about a line where you don't have the benefit of looking at a graph.